Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring something truly remarkable, the genetic story of Costa Rica.
It's this idea that some places, well, their whole history is kind of written in the DNA of the people.
Exactly. Imagine a place where the very land itself, mountains, oceans combined with centuries of people moving, migrating. It's woven this living history book in genes.
And Costa Rica is a prime example. It's a story that's not just biological, it's deeply human, a record of movement, adaptation, how people interact.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack that. Look at the diverse origins, the ancient roots, the colonial impact, other global threads.
And explore why it's so fascinating, particularly for science.
But also, crucially, why it brings up some really big, sometimes difficult questions. Identity, ownership, who benefits from discovery?
Yeah, those are key. And for this deep dive, we've drawn on a lot of material scientific papers, historical accounts, expert analysis.
We've tried to distill the core insights for you to really get a handle on Costa Rica's unique genetic makeup.
So expect some, well, frankly, surprising facts.
Definitely. Plus the historical context you need, and a look at those important debates around genetic research itself.
Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. Let's start unspooling this genetic thread.
Okay, so researchers often point to Costa Rica as having one of the most, maybe the most compelling genetic stories in Central America.
It's such a mix, isn't it? You've got that foundational indigenous layer, then the European colonial influence, a really significant African heritage.
And even more recent migrations from all over the world.
And you have to consider the geography, right?
Yeah.
This narrow country, two oceans, mountains cutting through it, fertile valleys.
Absolutely. That geography didn't just sit there. It actively shaped how people mixed, where they settled. It funneled things.
It's created this, well, unique cultural and genetic blend.
It really has. It makes Costa Rica this incredible sort of microscale case study for human genetic diversity. Small place, hugely complex genetic landscape.
Okay, so let's go back, way back, to the ancient roots.
Right. The earliest genetic bedrock comes from indigenous groups. Names you might hear are Chorotega, Cabécar, Bribri, Boruca.
And this isn't just theoretical, there's hard evidence.
Yeah, archaeological finds show people have been living in that region for at least 12,000 years. A long, long time.
And what's really striking is how much of that ancient ancestry persists today.
It does, especially if you look at modern indigenous Costa Ricans in more rural areas or protected territories. Studies show they often retain like 60 to 90% indigenous ancestry.
Wow, 60 to 90%. That's a very strong connection to the past.
It really is. This isn't just history, it's a living legacy. And their genetics tell stories, too.
Like adaptations.
Exactly. Researchers have found fascinating adaptations linked to their environments over millennia. Things like being better adapted to high carbohydrate diets.
Okay.
Or having enhanced resistance to local tropical diseases. Even adaptations for altitude in the mountainous regions.
Incredible. But then history takes a sharp turn. The Spanish arrive.
Yeah, early 16th century. And that arrival dramatically shifted the genetic landscape. A whole new, powerful thread was introduced.
And we see that clearly today.
Oh, absolutely. Genetic studies estimate that European ancestry now makes up roughly 40 to 60% of the average Costa Rican genome.
40 to 60%. That's substantial.
Very. And it's not evenly spread, that European influence. It's strongest in the Central Valley.
And why there specifically?
Well, that's where the main Spanish colonial settlements were established early on. And critically, it's where intermarriage between Spanish men and indigenous women was, well, common.
So that mixing created a very strong European genetic footprint right in the heart of the country.
Precisely. And it persists strongly today.
But again, that's not the whole picture. There's another major layer.
Right. We need to talk about African ancestry. This came in primarily between the 17th and 19th centuries, largely via the transatlantic slave trade.
And where do we see that influence most clearly today?
Primarily in the Limón province on the Caribbean coast. Modern Afro-Costa Rican communities there often show incredibly high levels again, 60 to 90% of West and Central African ancestry.
Another really strong, distinct heritage.
Absolutely. And Limón's story gets even more complex, actually.
How so?
Because in the late 19th century, you had another wave of people arriving workers from Jamaica and Barbados.
For the Atlantic Railway construction, right?
Exactly. And they brought their own distinct Caribbean cultures and, importantly, their own genetic layers to the mix. It added another texture, especially in Limón.
It's amazing how many threads there are. Indigenous, Spanish, African, Caribbean.
And it doesn't even stop there. Just to show how global this gets, in the late 19th, early 20th centuries, you had smaller but still distinct groups arriving.
Like who?
People from Italy, China, Lebanon, even Jewish communities escaping persecution elsewhere.
Wow. So they added their own, perhaps rarer genetic markers to the national map.
That's right. Tiny threads, maybe, compared to the others, but still part of the overall tapestry.
It really is hard to grasp. Ancient roots, Spanish colonists, African slaves, Caribbean workers, Chinese merchants, Italian farmers, all contributing to the DNA of this one small nation.
Makes you think, doesn't it? If you just randomly sampled 10 people from across Costa Rica, the sheer diversity of stories their genes could tell would be staggering.
Okay, so we've established this incredible, layered genetic diversity. But let's pivot to the science. Why is this specific mix so interesting for researchers? What makes it a goldmine?
Well, several reasons. Take the Central Valley population we mentioned earlier.
Right, with the strong European and indigenous mix.
Yeah, their ancestry is relatively well documented compared to many populations globally, and the communities have been quite stable for generations.
And that helps researchers how?
It makes it much easier to track genetic patterns, especially how certain traits or diseases pass down through families over time. You have clearer lineages to follow.
That makes sense. You mentioned stability, but also isolation in some areas, like mountain towns. Does that create unique situations too?
It definitely can. In some of those more isolated communities, researchers find that certain rare hereditary conditions are actually much more common than elsewhere.
Why would that be?
It's often due to something called the founder effect. Basically, if a small group of people starts a new community, any rare genes they happen to carry can become amplified, much more frequent in later generations just by chance.
Like a genetic echo chamber, almost.
Kind of, yeah. A genetic magnifying glass is a good way to put it. But beyond these specific cases, it's the mix itself that's really valuable.
The mix of African, indigenous, European ancestry.
Exactly. Studying people with this unique blend gives scientists crucial insights into how genes interact with environment and lifestyle.
The nature and nurture question.
Precisely. It's incredibly important for understanding complex diseases, things like diabetes, hypertension, certain cancers where it's not just about one gene, but how multiple genes interact with diet, environment, everything.
So Costa Rica offers a natural laboratory for that.
A really powerful one. And here's something that truly underscores the level of diversity we're talking about.
Okay.
Researchers have pointed out that, genetically speaking, two Costa Ricans from different backgrounds, say, an Afro-Costa Rican person from Limón and a Bribri indigenous person from the Talamanca Mountains. They might actually show greater genetic differences between them than you'd find between, say, a person from Spain and a person from Italy.
Wow. Greater difference within this small country than between two European nations.
Exactly. Despite living in the same nation, their ancestral journeys are so distinct.
That really drives home the point about internal diversity.
It does, and scientifically it means you don't have to compare populations across continents to study certain genetic interactions. You can study people with vastly different genetic heritages living in the same small area, often under similar environmental pressures.
Which helps untangle what's genetic versus what's environmental.
It helps immensely. It allows for a clearer look at how genes, environment, and lifestyle play together in health and disease. It's a unique setup.
Okay, the scientific value is clear. It's an incredible resource. But, as you hinted earlier, this kind of research, especially involving human genetics, often walks into complex territory. Controversies arise.
Yes, and Costa Rica has certainly seen its share. There's always this tension, isn't there, between the drive for scientific discovery and the ethical considerations.
What kind of issues have come up specifically?
Well, a major one revolves around biopiracy, or perhaps more accurately, bioprospecting concerns. Back in the 1990s, there was a huge public outcry.
Over what?
A private company essentially tried to secure exclusive rights to use Costa Rican genetic data and biodiversity data, too, for pharmaceutical research.
So trying to lock up access to potentially profitable discoveries derived from the nation's heritage.
That was the perception, yes. And it sparked a massive national debate about who actually owns these kinds of resources. Is it the nation, humanity, the company doing the research?
A really fundamental question. And it wasn't just about corporations, was it? Indigenous communities had concerns, too.
Very much so. There have been instances, or at least strong concerns raised by indigenous groups, about DNA samples being collected without full, culturally appropriate, informed consent.
What are their specific fears?
a deep-seated fear of exploitation. That their genetic heritage, which is intrinsically linked to their identity, their history, their connection to the land, could be used or commercialized without their permission or benefit.
Understandable. So these incidents, these concerns, they fuel a larger debate.
Exactly. It's an ongoing national conversation in Costa Rica. Is this incredible genetic diversity a kind of public resource, something freely available for global science to study for the potential benefit of all? Or is it a protected national heritage, something that belongs uniquely to Costa Rica and its people, requiring strict safeguarding and control within its borders?
Public good versus protected treasure. It's a tough one.
It's a very complex ethical, legal, and even philosophical challenge. There aren't easy answers.
So wrapping this up after our deep dive, it's clear Costa Rica's gene pool is more than just data points.
Oh, absolutely. It's a living record. Ancient peoples, colonial encounters, forced migrations, voluntary ones, adaptation. It's all there. A biological archive unlike almost any other.
And reflecting on this rich, complex story brings us back to those profound questions you mentioned.
Yeah, questions that really go beyond the science labs.
So the final thought we want to leave you with today centers on that core tension. Is this unique genetic heritage primarily a global asset, something that should be open for scientific advancement that might benefit everyone?
Or is it fundamentally a protected national treasure, something that demands strict guardianship by Costa Rica itself, with tight controls on who accesses it and how?
It forces us all to think about identity, culture, ownership, and survival in the age of genetic discovery.
Who do you think should ultimately control and benefit from such invaluable genetic data? Something to ponder.